All right, so for today, I will be reporting a specific topic in our subject ITE 326 Project Planning and Development. And I hope you will be patient in listening to my discussion because this topic is quite long. The topic that was assigned to me is Project Presentation Consideration. In industrial technology education, project presentations are crucial stage where students display their ideas, their skills, and achievements. A well-prepared presentation not only emphasizes the technical aspects of the project, but also showcases the presenter's ability to communicate effectively and persuade the audience. Key factors for success include clearly defining the objectives and goals of the project, ensuring technical accuracy in data and designs, and using visual aids such as diagrams, models, multimedia to enhance understanding. Additionally, engaging the audience by tailoring the presentation to their knowledge level while maintaining professionalism through a confident and organized delivery are very essential. For instance, a student presenting a project on designing an energy efficient smart home system might use a skilled model to demonstrate the integration of solar panels with smart energy management software. So they would explain the system's technical specifications, such as energy savings compared to traditional homes, and incorporate real time simulations to show how the system responds to energy demand changes. So this comprehensive approach, I can sure that it really makes sure that the audience comprehends the project's innovation and practicality, enhancing its impact. Now, I would like to enumerate the topics that will be discussed all throughout this specific lesson. So, market study, going to talk about technical study as well, organizational study, financial analysis, economic analysis, environmental impact assessment, which is very important, and workshop. But of course, at the end of the discussion, I am expecting that the students are individually required to basically you have to remember that all of us who are professional students we can already identify key market factors that influence project success such as target audience, demand, competition, market trends. We can already analyze and interpret market data to assess the feasibility of a project in a given market environment, explain the technical requirements and processes involved in project development, including resource availability, technology, and production methods. We can already develop a plan that outlines the project's operational and logistical components. At the same time, we can already assess the organizational structure and human resource needed for project implementation. We can already create an organizational framework that makes sure or ensures efficient project management and decision making processes. And we can already conduct a comprehensive financial analysis to determine the project's viability, including the cost estimates, revenue projections, financial risk assessment, and prepare a financial plan that includes budgeting, funding sources, and even break-even analysis. We can already evaluate the economic implications of the project, including its potential impact on local or national economies. Assess the project's cost-benefit ratio, considering both direct and indirect economic factors. Identify potential environmental impacts on the project and propose mitigation strategies. And at the same time, conduct an environmental impact assessment and integrate sustainable practices into project planning. You're also expecting from each other that we can already apply the knowledge from the market, technical, organizational, financial, and environmental studies to develop comprehensive project plan. And lastly, present and defend the project plan, demonstrating the ability to communicate project considerations clearly and persuasively to stakeholders. Now let's proceed to market study. What is market study? A market study is a process used to analyze the demand, the competition, the market environment for a product before it is produced or it is sold. This actually involves gathering information about the current prices, the product quality, marketing strategies, and competitors' practices. So the goal is to ensure that there is enough demand for the product and to identify how the project can compete effectively in the market. One of the example is, imagine if a group of industrial technology students working on a project to produce solar powered lanterns. So they have to gather information. The students research current prices of similar lanterns in the market and evaluate their quality. So they check how competitors market their products, where they sell them, and the terms of sale. Of course, we're going to talk about demand analysis as well. They identify that rural areas with limited access to electricity have high demand for affordable, durable lanterns. They also consider factors like the population growth in these areas and the preferences for eco-friendly products. Marketing program based on their findings, they design this marketing strategy that includes selling through local cooperatives and even online platforms like Lazada, Shopee, TikTok. They determine the best distribution channels like community centers, small retailers, and the plan for efficient transportation and storage. Now let's talk about the supply. The supply analysis is about understanding where and how a product is currently being produced, who the competitors are, and how much of the product is available in the market. So this includes looking at the competitor size, product quality, market segments, and whether the market is dominated by few large firms or many small ones. Historical data on local and international production import patterns is also important to predict the future supply trends and evaluate the market opportunity. For example, let's say industrial technology students are working on a project to produce biodegradable food packaging. So what are the competitor identification? The students investigate existing companies producing biodegradable packaging. So they classify these competitors based on the size. For example, small local producers versus large multinational firms. Product quality, durability, eco-friendliness, and design appeal. What about the market performance? Of course, who their customers are and how well they are doing in different locations. Of course, we also have to do supply evaluation. The students analyze the local and international supply data to identify trends. For instance, if most packaging in the region is imported, it may indicate an opportunity to produce locally to reduce the cost and delivery time. So when it comes to the demand-supply analysis, the students compare the current supply or the competitor output and imports with the projected demand for biodegradable packaging in schools and restaurants. So they find that while demand is increasing, supply is still limited, creating an opportunity to enter the market. And of course, the market share based on the projected production capacity of their biodegradable packaging, the students estimate their potential share in the local market. So they also consider how the unique features of their products, for example, compostable material, customizable designs, might redirect demand in their favor. So now let's talk about the price study. A price study analyzes how demand and supply, material costs, and other factors influence the pricing of a product. The price rises when demand increases with constant supply and may fall with government subsidies or lower costs. Conducting a price study helps determine a fair and competitive price for a product while considering market trends and operating expenses. For example, industrial technology students designing 3D printed mechanical parts conduct price study. What they did, they compared the prices of similar 3D printed parts from competitors and they substitute the products like traditionally manufactured components. So they also examine the past price fluctuations and find the material cost like filament or resin significantly impact prices. So they analyze demand changes, noting that lower prices could attract more buyers from small businesses. So considering these factors and their operating cost, they set this competitive price for their parts, ensuring profitability while appealing to their target market segment. Now, as you can see, the market for a product is influenced by various factors that impact demand, supply, and pricing. Demand may change with population growth, income levels, consumer preferences, and marketing strategies. Supply is affected by the availability of substitutes, production cost. Of course, new competitors, government policies, prices are influenced by factors like inflation, cost of materials, price controls. Understanding these factors help in designing the products that are competitive and relevant. For example, the students developing electric scooters analyze market factors like demand. Is there a rising fuel prices and urbanization boost interest in eco-friendly transport? Supply, availability of affordable batteries and the entry of new competitors influence scooter production. Of course, the prices. Inflation raises production costs, but government subsidies on green technology help keep prices competitive. Now, a marketing program, basically, the question is, what is a marketing program? Marketing program basically serves as the action plan to sell a product effectively by focusing on the four P's: the product, the price, the place, and promotion. It involves identifying the target market, setting competitive prices, creating appealing packaging, selecting efficient distribution channels, and using promotional strategies like advertising or sales promotions. A well-designed marketing organization really ensures that the plan is implemented efficiently and cost-effectively. For example, the students producing solar-powered phone chargers create marketing program. How do they do that? Product, of course, the compact chargers with eco-friendly packaging and different sizes for portability. The price, competitive pricing slightly lower than the similar products offering installment payment options. In terms of place, distribution through e-commerce platforms like, again, TikTok, Lazada, Shopee, local tech stores. Promotion, social media campaigns, partnerships with eco-friendly influencers, and free product trials at community events. Projections and forecast. Projections are predictions based on the past trends, assuming those trends will continue. Forecasts add judgment to these projections, considering current and future conditions for a more realistic outlook. Businesses use two methods. Qualitative forecasting, based on expert opinions, is useful when historical data is unavailable or irrelevant. We also have quantitative forecasting, which analyzes historical data and trends to predict the future outcomes. A good forecast should follow the SMART principle: S for sustainable, M for measurable, A for attainable, R for realistic, and T for time-bound. Example, the students creating electric bike kits use projections and forecasts. In terms of quantitative, they analyze the sales trend from the past 5 years in urban areas and notice increasing demand for eco-friendly transportation. Qualitative, they consult the experts to assess how government incentives for green tech might influence the future sales. And of course, the forecast. Combining both methods, they predict a 15% annual increase in demand over the next 3 years, guiding their production and marketing plan. This approach can really help the students plan realistically while adapting to changing market conditions. So let's talk about technical study. Technical study focuses on the technical requirements of a project, from selecting the processes and machinery to estimating the cost and resources. It ensures the project is feasible and efficient, covering aspects like plant layout, labor needs, raw materials, waste disposal methods, and the study also considers cost and future developments in industry to maintain the project sustainability. For example, the students working on a solar panel assembly project conduct technical study. They started selecting. They choose an efficient assembly process, source components from local suppliers, and design a compact plant layout. Another is determining. They calculate labor needs, two skilled technicians and one unskilled worker. They estimate energy requirement and plan for safe disposal of electronic waste. We also have to consider estimating the cost. They identify the major expenses like machinery, materials, utilities, and forecast overhead costs. They also start considering industry trends. They include emerging advancements in solar technology to ensure their project remains competitive. This systematic approach really helps them organize production, it controls the cost and align with industry standards. So now, let's talk about the product. A product description provides detailed information about the item being manufactured, including its physical, mechanical, and chemical properties. It explains how the product is used, whether as a finished good or as a component for other industries, adding visuals like pictures, enhances understanding and appreciation of the product. Let's say, for example, students designing biodegradable food container describe their product as, in terms of physical properties, lightweight, water resistant, compostable. In terms of mechanical properties, durable enough to hold hot and cold food items. In terms of chemical properties, it is made from natural fibers and free of harmful additives. In terms of uses, it is ideal for restaurant, catering businesses seeking these eco-friendly packaging solutions, including photos of the containers in use during food service events, gives potential users a clearer idea of their functionality and appeal. So now let's talk about the manufacturing process. The manufacturing process explains how a product is made, often supported by charts or diagrams for clarity. It compares alternative methods to justify the chosen processes and analyzes how similar products are manufactured in other plants, both locally and internationally. This ensures efficiency and competitiveness in production. For example, students manufacturing recycled plastic bricks describe their process. For example, in terms of the chosen process, shredding the plastic waste, mixing it with sand, heating, molding into bricks, a flowchart illustrates each step. In terms of comparison, they compare their process to traditional brick making, highlighting that their method uses less energy and reduces plastic waste. Industry analysis-wise, they study how similar bricks are made in other countries, noting improvements they can adopt. So plant size and production schedule. Plant size and production schedule refer to the production capacity of facility and how it operates. So the minimum capacity ensures the business covers fixed costs, while the maximum capacity indicates the highest output achievable. It also defines shifts per day and operating days per year to optimize production efficiency. Example, students planning a custom furniture workshop decide in terms of plant size, the workshop can produce 50 tables per month at maximum capacity. The minimum capacity is 20 tables, enough to cover the rent and labor cost. In terms of production schedule, the plant operates one shift per day, 5 days a week to meet the demand without overworking resources. So this structured plan ensures they can scale production based on demand while maintaining cost effectiveness. Of course, we do have the machinery and equipment. The machinery and equipment section identifies all the tools and machines required for production, detailing their specifications, capacities, the cost, the sources, local or imported. It also includes transportation costs, logistic for acquiring the equipment. Example, the student setting up a metal fabrication workshop list equipment. For example, in terms of quantity, 2 units of CNC machines, description, computer-controlled metal cutting and shaping. The capacity cuts up to 10 millimeter thick steel plates. Unit cost, it could be $15,000 each, imported from Germany. In terms of transportation, shipping cost is $2,000 included in the budget. So this detailed breakdown, it helps them plan for both production needs and budgeting effectively. We also have the plant location. The plant location is chosen based on factors like access to raw materials, affordable utilities, transportation costs, proximity to distributors, availability of labor. A detailed description, including the maps and landmarks, they help define the site clearly. For example, students planning a ceramic tile manufacturing plant select a location near a quarry for easy access to clay, like the raw material. They close to a major highway or for affordable transportation of finished products to distributors. Utilities like water, electricity are moderately priced. The area has a workforce experienced in manufacturing, and a map showing the site near a local town and highway ensures clarity and supports the decision. Of course, we have the plant layout, the building, and facilities. The plant layout involves designing the arrangement of equipment, the workspaces, the facilities to maximize the space utilization, ensure safety, and maintain sanitation standards. Of course, building plans should meet technical or architectural guidelines and include detailed measurement. For example, students designing woodworking shop create layout. The plan includes designated area for cutting, assembly, finishing, safety features like fire exits, proper ventilation, dust extraction systems are integrated. Sanitation facilities include hand washing stations and restrooms. Technical drawing with precise measurements ensures the layout meets standards and optimizes workflow. We also have the raw materials and supplies. The raw materials and supplies selection list the materials needed for production, detailing their properties, cost, sources, and availability. It also specifies the required quantities at different production stages to ensure smooth operations. For example, students producing eco-friendly paper bags list raw materials like in terms of quantity, 500 kilograms of recycled paper. In terms of description, it should be durable, biodegradable, lightweight. The unit cost is $2.50 per kilogram, sourced locally to ensure continuous supply. In terms of supplies, the non-toxic, adhesive, and eco-friendly dyes for printing, quantity and costs are outlined in detailed table, and this breakdown really helps plan material procurement and budget effectively while you are ensuring production consistency. Of course, we also have utilities. The utilities section outlines the consumption of essential resources like water, electricity, communication services. It includes the type of utility, estimated usage, association cost. Alternative sources such as renewable energy are also considered for cost effectiveness and sustainability. So example, students running a small scale solar panel assembly workshop list. In terms of utilities, electricity, 500 kilowatts per month, costing $100, with solar panels as alternative source. In terms of water, 2,000 liters per month for cleaning components, let's say costing $30, Our internet is $50 per month for communication and order management, and this breakdown helps manage operating costs and explore sustainable utility options. Of course, we have the waste disposal. The waste disposal section identifies the type and quantity of waste generated, outlines the disposal method, and estimates the cost. It also includes safety analysis to ensure waste management practices are safe for people and the environment. For example, students running a 3D printing workshop address waste disposal. In terms of waste, 20 kilograms per month of plastic scraps and failed prints. In terms of disposal method, waste is sent to a recycling facility for $50 per month. In terms of safety analysis, we have to ensure no harmful fumes or residues are released by regularly testing air quality in the workshop. So this plan ensures compliance with safety and environmental standards while managing the cost effectively. Of course, we do have the production cost. Production cost refers to the total expenses involved in making a product, including raw materials, labor, overhead, operating costs. It helps determine the price of the product to ensure profitability. So there is a detailed breakdown of multi-year summary which can be presented for better analysis. Example, students producing customized toolboxes can calculate the raw materials, $20 per unit, steel sheets, fasteners, labor, $15 per unit, fabrication and assembly, the overhead, $10 per unit, the rent, utilities, equipment maintenance, the total production cost, $45 per unit, the selling price is $60 per unit for a 33% profit margin. This ensures transparent cost management and competitive pricing. Now let's proceed to labor requirements. Labor requirements involve outlining the necessary jobs and functions for the operation of the business. Labor is categorized into direct, meaning to say production related, and we also have indirect, meaning to say supporting tasks and administrative roles. So the number of workers, pay job or pay scales, job responsibilities, and employee development programs should be detailed to ensure efficient operations. Example, students operating a metal fabrication shop outline their labor needs. For example, direct labor, position, welder. Number 3 workers, salary, $2,500 per month. Responsibilities, welding metal parts for assembly. In terms of indirect labor, we also have maintenance technician. That's the position. The number of worker, 1. The salary per month is $2,000. Responsibility, maintaining equipment and tools. We also have administrative labor. Position, office manager. Number, 1 worker. Salary, $3,000 per month. $3,000. So responsibilities, they manage the schedules, orders, and customer relations. This clear breakdown helps everyone in the business, in the company, in budgeting labor costs, ensuring efficient workforce management. Now let's proceed to organizational study. Organizational study focuses on defining the structure and key roles required for a project to function effectively. It involves reviewing the project's market, technical, financial, and administrative findings to establish an appropriate management structure. The form of ownership, such as sole proprietorship or single proprietorship, partnership, corporation, or cooperative, must be selected based on the project's needs and goals. Example, students planning a woodworking business conduct an organizational study. The purpose is for the project to produce custom furniture. The key personnel, the production manager, he oversees woodworking operations. The sales manager, he handles customer orders and marketing. The form of ownership, they choose a partnership because it allows shared investment, of course, expertise as well. The rationale, a partnership is chosen for its flexibility and ability to pool resources and skills for production and business growth. This study ensures the business is organized efficiently with clear responsibilities and ownership structure. Always remember, an organizational chart is a visual diagram that illustrates the structure of an organization, showing the relationship between different roles and the flow of authority from top management down to the rank and file employees, which helps clarify reporting lines and responsibilities within the organization. What about the officers and key personnel section? This identifies individuals in important positions within an organization. It includes details about their educational background, work experience, training, salary, and benefits. The duties and responsibilities of each key personnel member are also outlined to clarify their role in the organization. What about the project schedule? The project schedule outlines the task and timeline for completing a project. It can be represented using a Gantt chart, which shows the duration of each activity, or a PERT, which is the Program Evaluation and Review Technique Network, which details the sequence of activities and their dependencies. For example, students planning robotics project using Gantt chart to schedule the task. Week 1 to 2, design the robot parts. Week 3, they order the materials. For example, week 4 to 6, they assemble the robot. And for week 7, the testing and adjustment. This really helps them to stay on track by clearly defining when each task will be completed and how they depend on each other. Now let's talk about financial analysis. Financial analysis evaluates the financial performance of a project, predicting future expenditures, revenues, and cost. It includes key components such as total project cost, capital requirements, financing sources, and financial projections like cash flow statements, income statements, balance sheet statement. Assumptions based on realistic and industry-related data are used to forecast financial outcomes and guide decision-making. For example, the students working on a small manufacturing business conduct financial analysis. Major assumptions: they assume the 5% annual sales growth based on market trends and industry practices. Then the total project costs $100,000 for equipment, materials, and setup. And the sources of financing: a bank loan of $60,000 and owner's equity of $40,000. And in terms of financial projections, the cash flow statement predicting $20,000 in monthly sales and $15,000 in monthly expenses. Income statement: it is expected net profit of $5,000 monthly, and the balance sheet: assets of $80,000 and liabilities of $60,000. So these projections really help them assess the viability of the business and plan for future growth. Now let's talk about the total project cost. The total project cost is the estimate of all expenses required to start and operate a project. It includes both fixed assets such as land, buildings, and equipment, and current assets like working capital, inventory, and pre-operating costs. Adding the cost of fixed and current assets give the total cost estimate needed for the project. Example: the students planning a woodworking business estimate their total project cost. For example, the fixed cost: land and building, $50,000, machinery, the saws, the drills, the $30,000 cost, installation and utilities, electricity, water, $5,000. Current assets include inventory, like wood, screws, paints, $8,000. Per operating expenses like licenses, advertising, $2,000. Working capital, salaries, taxes, utilities, $5,000. The total project cost $50,000 fixed assets plus $20,000 current asset, it is equal to $70,000. This total helps the students understand the financial requirements needed to launch the business. Now, what is the source of financing the project? The source of financing refer to the different ways to a project or to secure a fund for a project. So this includes identifying potential sources, selecting the best options, considering details such as the amount, the terms, interest rates, and repayment period. It is also important to assess the status of financing and prepare for any unexpected changes or fluctuations in financing plan. For example, the student planning a small electronics assembly business lists their financing options. Possible sources, it could be bank loan, investor funding, or personal savings. Selected source, bank loan of $40,000. The terms is 5% interest rate, 5-year repayment period with factory equipment as collateral. The status, the bank has approved the loan pending final paperwork. Contingencies, they have budgeted an additional 10% for unexpected expenses, ensuring that fluctuations in material costs won't affect the project's completion. So this careful planning really ensures the financing is secured and managed effectively. We also have the financial statements, and one of that is a cash flow statement or cash budget. A cash flow statement or cash budget tracks the inflow and outflow of cash during specific period, typically a fiscal year. So it shows the net change in cash resulting from operating, investing, and financing activities and reconciles the starting and ending cash balances. For example, students running a small furniture making business create a cash flow statement. Cash inflow, sales revenue, $50,000. Loan received, $20,000. Cash outflows, raw materials, it could be $15,000. Salaries, it can be $10,000. Utilities, $2,000. The net cash flow, $50,000 plus $20,000. Those are inflows. And of course, the outflows, which includes raw materials, salaries, utilities, $15,000 plus $10,000 plus $2,000. You less it from the inflow that is equal to $43,000. This cash flow or this statement helps them track how much cash is available for business operations and future investments. So what about the income statement? Income statement shows a project's total revenues and expenses for a specific period, usually a year. So to determine the net income or loss, it can be presented into two formats. It can be multiple step format, shows various profits measures like gross profit, operating profit, earnings before taxes, before reaching the net income. But we also have the single step format, which lists all revenues and expenses together to calculate the net income directly. For example, a student running a custom t-shirt printing business prepare an income statement for the year. The revenue is $100,000 from t-shirt sales. Expenses, raw materials, $30,000. Labor, $20,000. The rent is $5,000. Utilities is $2,000. So the net income is $43,000. This really helps the students evaluate the profitability of their business. So what about net sales? Net sales is the total revenue from the sales after subtracting discounts, returns, and allowances. Sales returns occur when a customer cancels a purchase, and sales allowances are price reductions offered to customer. Net sales reflect how effectively the business turns its sales into actual profit. So example, the students running a handmade jewelry business calculate their net sales, like for example, total sales of $50,000, sales returns of $2,000, customers returned some items, sales allowance $1,000, discounts given to bulk buyers. So the net sales is $50,000 less the sales returns, less the sales allowances, it is now equal to $47,000. This shows the actual revenue after adjusting for returns and discounts. So let's talk about the cost of goods sold. The cost of goods sold represents the direct cost of producing or purchasing the goods that a business sells to customer. For merchandising business, it is calculated as the starting inventory plus any new purchases and transportation costs like freight in, minus the ending inventory. So the cost of goods sold is crucial because it is typically the largest expense and directly impacts profit. Okay, as you can see, example, the student running a bookstore calculate their cost of goods sold, beginning inventory $10,000, purchases $5,000, freight in $500, the cost of transporting the books, ending inventory is $3,000, the cost of goods sold is $10,000, plus the $5,000, plus the $500, less the $3,000, that is $12,500. So this amount actually reflects the cost of the book sold and is subtracted from the total sales to determine the profit. Okay, so let's continue learning by identifying what is gross income. Gross income or gross profit is the difference between the net sales and cost of goods sold. It shows how much profit a business makes after covering the cost of producing or purchasing the goods it sells before accounting for other expenses like operating costs and taxes. Example, students running a coffee shop calculate their gross income, net sales of $30,000, cost of goods sold $12,000, and the gross income is $30,000 minus $12,000. The gross income is $18,000. This means that the coffee shop made $18,000 in profit after covering the cost of coffee beans, the milk, and other ingredients in the coffee shop. What about the operating expenses? Operating expenses are costs incurred in the day-to-day operation of a business, including selling, general and administrative expenses. This include costs for advertising, lease payments, depreciation, repairs, maintenance. Management has control over these expenses and they significantly affect the company's profitability. Example, students running a local bakery list their operating expenses. It could be advertising $1,000 for local promotions, and these payments, $2,000 for renting the bakery space. Depreciation, it could be $500 for equipment wear and tear. Repairs and maintenance, $300 for oven repairs. So these expenses are deducted from the bakery's gross income to determine its operating profit. We also have the net operating profit. Of course, this is also known as the earnings before interest and taxes, which is the profit a company makes from its core operations, calculated by subtracting operating expenses from the sales revenue. It focuses solely on the company's operational performance, excluding the interest, the taxes, and financing activities. Example, students running a fitness center calculate their operating profit, sales revenue of $50,000 from membership fees, operating expenses, $30,000 for staff salaries, utilities, and equipment maintenance. Net operating profit is equal to $50,000 minus $30,000 is equal to $20,000. This figure reflects the center's operational success before considering interest, taxes, or financing costs. We also have other income. Other income refers to revenues that a business earns outside of its main operations. So this includes income from investments like dividends, interest, as well as gains or losses from selling fixed assets. So for example, student running technology startup report other income like dividend income, $500 from investment in stocks, or gain from sale of equipment, $1,000 from selling old computers, These amounts are added to the company's total income but are not part of its regular business activities. If we have other income, we also have other expenses, of course. Other expenses are costs that are not related to the core operations of a business. These can include interest expenses, losses from the sale of fixed assets, and other non-operational costs. Example, the student running a small manufacturing company report other expenses like interest expense, $200 on a loan, loss from sale of equipment, $300 from selling old machines at a loss. So these expenses are deducted from the total income but are not part of the regular operational cost. Okay, so what about the earnings before income taxes? It is the profit a company generates before subtracting income tax expenses. So it reflects the company's profitability from its operations, excluding tax consideration. Example, the student running a clothing store calculate their earnings before income taxes. Sales revenue, $40,000. Operating expenses, $25,000. Other expenses, $2,000. So earnings before income taxes is $40,000 less $25,000 less $2,000, that is equal to $13,000. This is the profit before the company calculates and deducts income taxes. And then we have the net earnings, which is the final profit a company makes after accounting for all revenues, expenses, taxes, and other costs during an accounting period. It shows the company's financial or overall financial performance. Example, students running a coffee shop calculate their net earning, total revenue $30,000, total expenses $22,000, which includes operating costs, taxes, among others. The net earnings is $30,000 less $22,000 is equal to $8,000. This is the shop's profit after all expenses have been deducted. But of course, we also have the earning per common share, meaning to say it is a measure of a company's profitability calculated by dividing its net earnings by the average number of common shares outstanding during a period. So it shows how much profit is attributed to each share of common stock. For example, student running a startup tech company calculates this earnings per common share by getting the net earnings, $50,000, shares outstanding, $10,000 or 10,000 shares. Earnings per common share is equal to $50,000 divided by 10,000. It is equal to $5. This means that the company earned $5 for each share of common stock during the period. But of course, we also have the balance sheet. First, we have the balance sheet statement, which provides a snapshot of a company's financial position at a specific point in time. It summarizes what the company owns, its assets, what it owes, its liabilities, and the value owned by shareholders or the equity. The total asset always equal the sum of liabilities and equity. Again, asset always equal the sum of liabilities and equity. For example, students running a small manufacturing business prepare their balance sheet statement. Assets, $100,000, cash, equipment, inventory, asset. Liabilities, $60,000, composing loans, accounts payable. Equity, $40,000, owner's investment. The balance sheet shows that the company's total assets of $100,000 are financed by $60,000 in liabilities and $40,000 in equity. All right, so let's proceed about current assets. Current assets are assets that can be easily converted into cash or used up within 1 year or the company's normal operating cycle, whichever is longer. Okay, so this includes cash, inventory, and accounts receivable. Working capital refers to the difference between current assets and current liabilities, showing the company's ability to meet the short-term obligations. Example, students running a clothing store calculate their current assets, cash $5,000, inventory $10,000 worth of clothing, accounts receivable $2,000 from customers. So the current asset is equal to 5,000, $5,000 cash, $10,000 inventory, $2,000 receivables, that is equal to $70,000. This shows the store's liquid assets available for use in daily operations. And then we have the cash. Of course, everyone wants cash. Cash refers to the money in any form that a business holds, including the physical cash, cash awaiting deposit, or the funds in the bank account. It is the most liquid assets and can be used immediately for transaction. For example, a retail store has a cash on hand of $500, cash in bank of $2,000. So the total cash is 500 plus $2,000 is equal to $2,500, which represents the store's readily available funds for daily operations. What about marketable securities? Marketable securities are short-term investments that a business makes with excess cash, not needed immediately, and these investments are easily convertible to cash and are typically low risk, providing a return while minimizing exposure to interest changes. Example, a tech startup invests $10,000 in short-term government bonds with a 6-month maturity, earning interest until the funds are needed for future expenses. So these marketable securities provide a safe, short-term return on cash that isn't required for immediate use. And we have the accounts receivable. These are amounts owed to a business by customers who made purchases on credit, o in Filipino, mga pautang. They are reported on the balance sheet at their net realizable value, which is the amount expected to be collected after accounting for any potential losses like the allowance for doubtful accounts. Example, all right? A furniture, for example, store has $5,000 in sales on credit but expects $500 may not be collected. So accounts receivable $5,000, allowance for doubtful accounts of $500. The net realizable value, 5,000 minus 500 is equal to $4,500. This represents the amount the store expects to actually collect. And then we have inventories. So inventories are goods held by business for sale or for use in making products to be sold. In a retail business, inventories typically consist of merchandise for resale, while in manufacturing business, inventories include raw materials, work in progress, and finished goods. Example, a clothing store has merchandise inventory, $10,000 worth of clothing for resale. A clothing manufacturer has raw materials, for example, $5,000 worth of fabric. Work in progress, like $3,000 in partially made clothes. Finished goods, $7,000 in completed clothing ready for sale. Inventories affect a company's financial health and performance by influencing cost and sales. And then we have the prepaid expenses, which are payment made in advance for goods or services that will be used in the future. So these are considered current assets until the expense is incurred. Common examples include prepaid, insurance, rent, utilities. A small business pays $1,200 for a 1-year insurance policy. Prepaid expense, $1,200. Each month, $100 prepaid insurance is recognized as an expense. So the remaining balance is listed as prepaid expense asset until it is used up over time. We have the property, plant, and equipment. These are long-term tangible assets that a business uses in its operations, such as buildings, machinery, vehicles. So these assets provide benefits for more than 1 year. Over time, their value decreases through depreciation, like which spreads the asset cost over its useful life, excluding land, which does not depreciate. Land is the only asset that does not depreciate, especially in business. Example, a manufacturing company buys a machine for $10,000 with an estimated useful life of 5 years and a residual value of $1,000. So depreciation is equal to $10,000 minus $1,000 divided by 5 years. That is equal to $1,800 per year. So the machine's value decreases each year and the depreciation expense is recorded. And the other non-current assets are long-term assets that are not easily converted to cash within a year. So this include items like property held for sale, startup costs, life insurance cash value, long-term payments, and tangible assets like patents, trademarks, goodwill, and franchises. Example, a company technology company list goodwill, $50,000 from acquiring another business, patents, $10,000 for exclusive rights to a new product design, long-term investment, $20,000 in stocks expected to be held for more than a year, and these assets are recorded for their long-term value and potential to generate future benefits. Then we have the current liabilities, which are debts or obligations that a company must pay within 1 year or its operating cycle. So whichever is longer. So this includes accounts payable, notes payable, accrued liabilities, current portion of the long-term debt. So a retail business, for example, has accounts payable of $5,000 owed to supplier for goods purchased on credit, notes payable $2,000 due to a bank for a short-term loan, accrued liabilities $1,000 in wages owed to employees. These liabilities must be settled within the year, and these are important for managing the company's short-term financial health. And then we have here the current maturities of long-term debt, which refers to the portion of long-term debt like bonds or mortgages. So that must be repaid within the next year. This amount is classified as current liability on the balance sheet. For example, real estate company has $100,000 mortgage with $10,000 due within the next year. Current maturity is $10,000, which is the portion of the mortgage that needs to be paid in the next year. The amount is reported as a current liability while the remaining $90,000 is considered long-term debt. So what does it mean by long-term debt? It refers to the financial obligations that are due for repayment beyond 1 year. So these are classified as non-current liabilities and include items like bonds, long-term loans, mortgages, lease obligations, pension liabilities, and long-term warranty commitments. For example, a manufacturing company has bonded indebtedness, meaning to say $50,000 in bonds due in 5 years. Mortgage of $100,000 loan due in 10 years. Pension liabilities like $20,000 owed to employees for future retirement benefits. These long-term debts are recorded on the balance sheet as non-current liabilities. Stockholders' equity represents the ownership interest in a company. It is the value of the company's asset minus its liabilities and reflects what is left for shareholders after all debts are paid. Example, the company has an asset of $200,000, liabilities of $120,000, stockholders' equity $200,000 asset less $120,000 liabilities this equal to $80,000, which is the portion of the company owned by shareholders. And then we have the common stock. The common stock represents ownership in a company. The value listed under common stock is based on the par or stated value of the shares issued. Dividends on common stock are paid at the discretion of the company's board of directors. So example, the company issues 10,000 shares of common stock with a par value of $1 per share. So the common stock is $10,000 times $1. 10,000 shares times $1 is equal to $10,000. This amount represents the capital raised from issuing common stock, and any dividends would be decided by the board. So we have the additional paid-in capital, which represents the amount received from the sale of stock above its par value. It also includes other contributions such as donated capital or gains from treasury stock transaction. Example, a company issues 1,000 shares of stock with a par value of $1 per share but sells them for $5 each. Additional paid-in capital, 1,000 shares times $5 minus 1,000 shares times $1 is equal to $4,000, which reflects the amount received above the par value of the shares. And we have the retained earnings. These are the total profit a company has earned since its inception, minus any dividends paid to shareholders. So these earnings are reinvested in the business rather than distributed as dividends. For example, a company has earned $50,000 in profits over the years and paid $10,000 in dividends to shareholders. Retained earnings is equal to $50,000 minus $10,000 equals $40,000, which represent the earnings of the company, which has kept to reinvest in its operations. Then we have other equity accounts, which includes items related to company's ownership structure and other financial activities. This can include preferred stock and foreign currency translations effects and treasury stock repurchased by the company. Example, the company has preferred stock of $10,000, treasury stock of $5,000, stock bought back from the market, and foreign currency translation effects $2,000 gain or loss from the currency exchange rate. These accounts reflect additional components of the company's equity that are not part of the common stock or retained earnings. So now let's talk about financial statement analysis. Financial statement analysis involves calculating financial ratios to compare key figures from companies' balance sheet and income statement. These ratios help assess a company's financial health by showing the relationships between different financial metrics. For example, a company calculates the current ratio, current asset, $50,000, current liabilities, $25,000. Current ratio is equal to $50,000 divided by $25,000 equal to. This ratio shows that the company has $2 in asset for every $1 in liability, helping assets is short-term financial stability. And then we have the ratio analysis, which helps evaluate the company's financial health by providing key insights into its profitability, financial stability, and management efficiency. It measures how well the company performs in using resources, managing short-term and long-term obligations in terms of financial, and generating profit. Example, the company uses ratio analysis to assess the return on asset or the profitability. The return on assets shows how efficiently the company generates profit from its asset. The financial soundness, the debt-to-equity ratio evaluates the company's ability to meet long-term obligations. Efficiency is the inventory turnover ratio measures how quickly the company sells and replaces its inventory. These ratios actually help investors and managers make informed decisions about the company's financial performance and future prospects. Again, we have the limitations of financial ratios. Financial ratios are useful tools for assessing the company's performance, but they should not be viewed in isolation. They need to be interpreted within context and alongside other factors like industry standards, the company's history, and management's goal. Ratios are based on financial statements as they are without adjustments, which may limit their full accuracy. Example, of course, you have to remember in terms of company calculates its profit margin ratio for the year. like the profit margin is equal to the net income divided by sales. While the ratio gives a snapshots of profitability, it should be compared with companies' past performance to see if it's improving, industry averages to assess competitiveness, and management's budget to check if targets are met. This broader context helps the ratio analysis more meaningful and accurate. Okay, of course, we have the financial ratio analysis, which is the process of evaluating the company's financial performance and financial health by comparing its financial data to industry benchmarks and historical trends. We have the liquidity ratio, which measure a company's ability to meet its short-term financial obligations such as paying bills, loans, operating costs. These ratios help assess whether the company has enough cash or assets that can quickly be converted into cash to cover immediate liabilities. For example, the company calculates its current ratio. Current assets, $60,000. Current liabilities, $30,000. Current ratio is equal to $60,000 divided by $30,000. That is equal to 2. This means the company has $2 in asset for every $1 in liabilities, indicating it can comfortably meet its short-term financial obligations. Then we have the activity ratio, which measures how efficiently a company manages its assets, such as accounts receivables, inventory, fixed assets, and these ratios indicate how quickly and effectively the company converts its assets into sales or cash. For example, inventory turnover ratio measures how often a company sells and replaces its inventory in a given period. Cost of goods sold, $120,000. Average inventory, $30,000. Inventory turnover is equal to $120,000 divided by $30,000, which is equal to 4. This means the company turns over its inventory 4 times a year. Accounts receivable turnover ratio measures how quickly a company collects payment from its customers, like net credit sales, for example, $150,000. Average accounts receivables, $25,000. Receivables turnover is equal to $150,000 divided by $25,000, and that is equal to 6. This indicates the company collects its receivables 6 times a year, showing efficient management of accounts receivables. And then leverage ratio, which measures how much debt a company uses to finance its operations relative to its equity. So this ratio also assists the company's ability to cover fixed financial obligations like interest payments, rent, or sinking fund payments. Debt to equity ratio, it measures the proportion of debt used for financing compared to shareholders' equity. For example, total debt $200,000, total equity $100,000. Debt to equity ratio is equal to $200,000 divided by $100,000 equal to 2. It is equal to 2. This means the company has $2 in debt for every $1 of equity, indicating it is highly leveraged. And of course, we have the interest coverage ratio, which measures the company's ability to pay interest on its debt. Earnings before interest and taxes is $50,000. Interest expenses, $10,000. Interest coverage ratio is equal to $50,000 divided by $10,000, and that is equal to 5. This means the company earns 5 times more than its interest expense, showing a strong ability to cover interest payments. And of course, we have the profitability ratio, which measure a company's overall performance, indicating how efficiently it manages its assets, liabilities, and equity to generate profit. These ratios help assess the company's ability to generate earnings to relative to its revenue, asset, or equity. For example, return on asset measures how efficiently a company uses its asset to generate profit. Net income, $40,000. Total assets, $200,000. Return on asset is $40,000 divided by $200,000, and that is equal to 0.2 or 20%. This means the company earns 20% profit for every dollar of asset it's owned or assets it owns. Return on equity measures how well the company generates profit from shareholders' equity. Net income $40,000, shareholders' equity $100,000. Return on equity is equal to $40,000 divided by $100,000. It is equal to 0.4 or 40%, which indicates that the company generates a 40% return on the equity invested by its shareholders. Okay, so let's proceed to another one, which is the break-even analysis. Break-even analysis is very simple to define. It is used to determine the sales volume a business needs to reach or to start making a profit. It calculates the point where the total revenue is equal to total cost, meaning the business is neither making a profit nor incurring a loss. And we have the economic analysis. Okay, when we speak of economic analysis, it is actually focusing on the idea of broader socioeconomic benefits of a project beyond just generating profit. It assesses how the project contributes to improving living standards, community development, and economy. So this includes factors like creating jobs, using local materials, saving foreign exchange, potentially lowering prices. For example, student planning a local organic farm might consider employment like creating 10 full-time jobs for local workers, production producing 100,000 kilograms of organic vegetables annually. All right, that is another thing that is considered. You also have to identify that socioeconomic benefits could improve local food supply and living standards. It could save foreign exchange by reducing imports of vegetables. It could stimulate community growth and support local farmers. This analysis helps show how the project benefits the community, not just the business. And we have another is environmental impact assessment. An environmental impact assessment is a process used to predict and assess the potential environmental impacts of a proposed project or development. This helps identify potential negative impacts and find ways to minimize or avoid them. Examples of projects that often require environmental impact assessment: highways, dams, power plants, mining operations, industrial facilities. Now let's talk about, okay, the project in the environmental impact assessment. So environmental impact assessment, again, is a process used to predict and assess the potential environment impact. Of course, you have to know that, of a proposed project. So this helps identify the potential negative impacts, and we have to find ways to avoid or minimize them. Environmental impact assessments are conducted before the project starts. It actually allows for adjustment of the plan. The project developer is responsible for the environmental impact assessment, which is overseen by government agencies like the Center for Economic Development, Transport, and the Environment. So the public and affected authorities can participate in the environmental impact assessment process. The environmental impact assessment law specifies which projects really require an assessment, but smaller projects may also be assessed if they have significant environmental impacts. By conducting environmental impact assessment, authorities aim to ensure that the development projects are environmentally sustainable and minimize harm to environment. Just like the prime terraces that is actually introduced by us by Slater Young, who is a YouTuber, an influencer, and I believe the big winner in the PBB, one of the PBB series. Of course, we have the plans and programs. Strategic environmental assessment is a process that is used to assess the potential impacts of plans and programs, such as national policies, regional development plans, sectoral plans. The goal of the C is to ensure the strategic environmental assessment, to ensure that the environmental considerations are integrated into these plans and programs from the early stages of development. Strategic environmental assessment is conducted at the early stages of planning, allowing for adjustments, So the public and relevant authorities are involved in the strategic environmental assessment process, providing input and feedback. The results of the strategic environmental assessment influence decision making on the plan or programs. By conducting this specific assessment, the government and other organizations they can make more informed decision and promote sustainable development and protect the environment. Of course, transboundary environmental impact, which refers to the environmental effects of a project plan or program that cross national borders. So if a project in one country might significantly affect another, okay, both countries cooperate in environmental assessment process, which ensures that the authorities and the public in both countries can participate and be informed about potential impacts. So forest development project in one country may affect air quality or water sources in neighboring country. The Finnish Environment Institute would inform Finnish authorities and the public if the project might impact Finland, allowing them to participate in the environmental impact assessment process. So both countries would cooperate to address and manage any potential cross-border environmental issues. So now let's talk about workshop. Workshop is an interactive learning experience where a group of people work together to learn new skills, to solve problems, or to develop creative solutions. Workshops are often led by experts or facilitators and involve activities like discussions, group work, and hands-on exercise. Well, the core concept, of course, of workshop remains consistent. Its specific interpretation can actually vary depending on the context. For example, to an educator, a workshop might be a structured learning section or session, while to an expert, it could be a platform for in-depth discussions and knowledge sharing. But the big question is, what is the purpose of workshop? Basically, the purpose of workshop is to create a space in which group of people can meet to discuss questions, brainstorm ideas, identify problems, make decisions, and develop solutions. This space often doesn't exist in busy schedule of day-to-day work. On average, professionals spends, I guess, 21.5 hours in meetings spread across their week. So this leaves little time to deep work, especially when you consider that not all meetings are back-to-back and therefore naturally split the day into 1 to 2 hour blocks of actual work. Workshop create a space for deep, meaningful work to happen and also help to tap into the wisdom of the group. This is especially interesting if you're standing in front of complex, interdisciplinary challenge such as doing strategic planning. Of course, we have some examples. We have strategic planning workshop, respective workshop, workshop, best practices. Of course, you have to remember that for you to have the best practices in terms of workshop, you must have, or you must tackle difficult, complex challenges since there are many people involved. There is always a risk of things going wrong. But there's some best practices that can help you to keep a workshop on track. You should have a facilitator. So for workshop, it is essential to have someone on board that can really guide the group through the process, through the activities. This makes it easier for the group to focus entirely on the content of the workshop and to make meaningful progress. If there is no facilitator present, you can consider doing it yourself. If you're sure how to approach it, you can consider taking a course in facilitation beforehand. You need to prepare well. Good workshops stand and fall by their preparation. So the better you understand the challenge to be solved, the better you can design a process for it. Better you know the goals and needs for each participant, the better you can prepare and avoid the conflicts or unhappy participants. When it comes to workshop, good preparation is doing the heavy lifting. You must have a clear outcome as well. Nothing can be more confusing and disorienting for a group than not knowing where things are leading. So if you're the facilitator, you want to make clear what expected outcome of the workshop is and highlight why this is valuable for the group. This not only creates clarity, but gets you buy-in from participants, which makes them more engaged in the content. A great way to do this is to ask them 3 age questions. What do you want people to have in their hands? Our deliverables. What do you want people to have in their heads? Knowledge. And what do you want people to have in their hearts? Beliefs. The simple method comes from The Secrets of Facilitation by Michael Wilkinson, one of our favorite facilitation books. But then, of course, I want you to know the difference between the workshop and a meeting. A meeting is simply just gathering two or more people to share their common purpose. A workshop is a type of interactive meeting. It involves larger group that engage in a set of activities to discuss or solve a problem. Again, a seminar in a way is, we also have to talk about seminar and workshop. A seminar is just a way of teaching knowledge and skills to a group of people through lectures. But then workshop is a meeting that builds upon the interaction between participants to facilitate the exchange of knowledge and to build skills. I hope I was able to discuss what is the purpose of workshop, and I was able to give you an example of such. But then again, thank you so much for listening to this topic that was assigned to me in this subject, EDDITE 326 Project Planning and Development. And I hope you are having a great day. God bless everyone.